My name is Meldon Dickens. I'm your co-host.
And I'm Al Davis.
And we welcome you back here. We're excited about our latest show today. We have a great guest for you today. But first, let's give a shout out to our Ham Radio family, to the founder, the producer extraordinaire, King Richard Good. And we have a great guest for you today on our show. First of all, we just want to thank everybody for tuning in. You can follow us on all of the social media apps. The Real Estate Podcast on Facebook, Estate_Podcast on Instagram, and all other media platforms. We're on YouTube, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. Please check us out, The Real Estate Podcast. And let's get right down to business today. We have a great guest for you, none other than the visionary and CFO. I know you changed titles, Mr. Khalil Uqdah of Charm City Buyers. Come on, let's give him welcome right here. Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome, my brother.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, so we just excited, man, to have you on, man. We've been doing some great stuff in the city, and certainly we've been watching you guys do your thing in the city as well. And you guys have a tremendous social media presence with the program you're doing and your mentorship program. But I know, Khalil, you've done real estate at many different levels and facets. And so just kind of before we get started, man, just tell us a little bit how you kind of got started in real estate and a little bit about your background.
Yeah, so coming straight out of college, I came back home to Baltimore. So I graduated from Lehigh up in Pennsylvania, came back home for about 18 months. And I knew I had always been entrepreneurial. I used to sell candy in middle school and stuff in high school, all that kind of stuff, right? Yeah. We all kind of have that entrepreneurial path. And when I came back home, I was like, I need to be a leader. My dad always told me, like, you know, he worked with his hands, and he said, you know, do one better than I did. Instead of working with your hands, work with your brain. Right. And if you can do it even better, own the company, right? So I had always been taught and been taught to own. So when I came back home, like, I'm going to start something. I don't know what yet, but I'm going to need money, right? I'm going to need capital. So I got a job. I saved up as much cash as I could. And when I moved to Connecticut to be with my now wife, we used that money to buy our first property.
Wow. So you really started in Connecticut.
Yeah. So I moved to Connecticut back in 2012. Okay. And she had been up there working a very strong corporate role. I had got there and just had a pocket full of cash. I found a job, just kind of gathering skills, as I say. For me, it wasn't about the corporate climb. It was more about getting as many skills as possible. Mm-hmm. And again, we took that money. We looked at each other and said, let's vision board. Let's figure it out. We were going out and having fun. And like, we don't want to buy all this stuff and crowd. Let's actually put something to work. Let's get something that is going to, it's going to be an asset. It's going to be something we can pass forward. It's going to create positive change. Mm-hmm. And real estate checked a lot of those boxes for us.
Wow. So when you came to real estate, tell us a little bit about how did you come to, because I know one of your sort of signature things when Charm City Buyers is buy the block, or why not buy the block? So can you tell us a little bit about that theme and how you came into that?
Yeah. So for us, and for a lot of people, it's a hashtag, it's a slogan, it's something that resonates. Being able to buy the block, being able to plant a flag in an area and say, we now have ownership. We're going to make this good change. We're going to rehab these vacant properties in this specific area and build it up. It's not necessarily just about a physical block. Blocks have different sizes, different shapes, different house types throughout the country. But for us, it's that mentality. It's that going block by block, house by house, and rehabbing these houses.
Well, okay. That's fine. Buying the block, I'm with that, and I'm sure everybody in our podcast is like eventually would like to buy a block. But I want to know, how did you get to that point? What initially made you think about real estate? How did you get in? What did you do when you were in there? Did you buy for income stream? Did you buy to flip? Were you wholesaling? And then how did you leverage that to get into the position to do development and buy blocks?
So let me tell you a little bit more about our story. So again, that first one, I saved $25,000, right? The house cost 26,000. It was a vacant shell. It was a 3-unit shell. So all 3 apartments were empty. We had to redo everything. This is back in 2012 where construction prices were a little more reasonable.
Yeah.
So, but we had to redo the roof. We had to redo 42 windows, the whole MEP systems. For those who don't know, that's your mechanical, your electrical, your plumbing, all new drywall, all new doors, the entire inside of the house, right? So, so we fixed that one up. It was income producing from day one. So as soon as we stabilized it, we were bringing in about $2,400 a month. And our PITI, our principal, our interest, our taxes, insurance, so all of our carry costs was about $1,200 a month. So we were bringing in about $1,200 cash flow every single month.
That's good.
We took that. We came back home. We told our story. We bought the next one. The next one was also a rental. We took the money from the first one and we snowballed it. Right. So for the second one, we convinced the seller to hold 50% of the note. So it was a seller finance deal. And then the other 50%, we actually found a private money lender to provide the capital. So all we had to do was make monthly payments to pay off both. So we were leveraging the money from the cash flow from the first one. We were leveraging money from the tenant in the second one. We got 4 units now, and we kept on building. So for our snowballing purposes, we stuck with rentals. That was our initial game plan. That's where I was comfortable. I'm like, look, we can rinse and repeat this all day long. Kiara decided she wanted to flip, which was great, and I was for it. So after we had both left our full-time jobs in 2016, 2017, we started flipping houses. So buy, fix, and sell, providing home ownership opportunities so that other people can then build wealth.
Yeah.
Continue scaling, continue growing. Next thing you know, developments. So we recently landed a project where we will be building with our team 50 brand new townhomes right in the heart of Baltimore City, East Side. About 68 total units. Our density count is going to be, we're going to do some duplexes, but being able to name a community, do the infrastructure work, create new pathways and streets and things. It's that next level development stuff.
Oh, that's great. But we skipped a couple of things. I think the people might want to know. I know I want to know because I don't do developments. I just do individual houses and a couple of apartment buildings. But how do you structure that? Like, how do you find the land? How did you find the bank? How did you find the developers to work with you? Could you give the people a little more insight as to how do they get to that point to actually begin to do a development? You have to find the land. You have to get the drawings. You have to get the permits. You have to get the land perk and all that. Then you have to find the financing or partnership with or partner with a developer. Am I right or am I wrong?
Yeah, you're right. It's not one person who can do it all. It's a full team effort.
Right.
You need a civil engineer, an architect, a development partner. You need the financing side on the debt, the equity, the historic tax credits, the grants, whatever your capital stack is. All of those pieces make a successful project. So for us, networking was huge. Leveraging our experiences, we actually got tapped by, I got tapped by a commercial developer who was looking to build out his residential side. So I was working with him and helping him for about 3 years and then kind of learning the ins and outs, making sure that we knew what a financial model was, what a pro forma was, and all those types of things. So being able to humble yourself, to network, to tap into your resources and leverage your own strengths, whatever skills those are, is how you step up and you keep on growing, you keep on scaling, and you keep attracting your future self.
So it's about building relationships because you work with them for 3 years and you build a relationship with them. Then you were able to go back to them at a later date.
Right. I could have. I didn't actually go back to them. Okay. But you're right. Relationships and reputation. Those are the two big keys.
Mm-hmm. And so I also know that, like, in your background, you've done some development. And I don't, I know you did some work with Bill Streever Brothers, and some other, I guess that was Cross Street Partners. And so what was your sort of background in college, in school? Is that what you kind of focused on, or did the real estate just become the thing because you had this entrepreneur kind of spirit?
Yeah, good question. So, real estate was the thing because of the entrepreneurship. My business, my major in college was business um, management with an
Okay.
economics focus,
Mm-hmm.
and then I got my MBA in entrepreneurship from Towson.
Okay.
So it had always been kind of this broad path, but real estate was what called me. Yeah, yeah, and being able to work with folks like Streever and Cross Street Partners has been great. There was so much value that I was able to attract from them, and so much value that I was able to give to them. Um, we it was definitely a mutually beneficial opportunity.
Cool. So Al Davis with his company Sky Miles, and we've been doing. He's teaching me how to do the mentorship. He's done the mentorship program, and so I know you do something similar. I think his may be a little different in that his model's a little more hands-on. I think you guys have more of a more structured classroom model. You want to talk a little bit about Charm City Buyers and what that's all about for some of the folks who are on our audience who may not know, and the people who out there may want to talk about your program.
Yeah, sure. So Charm City Buyers, our group coaching program, is our opportunity to pay it forward. We didn't have a trust fund, no family members who had done this, no family members in construction, real estate, nothing. So when we went to Connecticut, we were completely blind, but we learned a lot, and we were able to formalize that. Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
So when we came back home, we kept getting text messages and emails and phone calls, and people were just curious, how are you doing this? So we formed our group coaching program. So it's our 12-week program that teaches that provides the tools, the guidance, and the resources to make sure that folks are finding success in Baltimore specific real estate. We coach people how to find properties. We talk to them about managing contractors, managing tenants, the acquisition process, the closing process, being able to do the construction, the rehab, what to look out for, what not to look out for, the permitting process, working with architects, all the way to a stabilized property. So currently, we've got a little over 600 people in our group coaching program. And we ran some numbers. The last 6 months of 2021, our participants acquired $8 million worth of property of Baltimore City homes. So we're very niche specific on Baltimore City. We feel very confident with our knowledge on the permitting process and really the entire process to help coach folks all the way through.
Awesome. And so those folks, and how long do they stay? I mean, it's 12 weeks, but do they stay with you after the 12 weeks, or is it just once they graduate and get their own properties, they kind of go on, or do they come back for other kind of consulting, or how's that work?
Yeah, no, everybody kind of sticks around. So although the curriculum is 12 weeks, it's a 1 year program, so that you can always ask questions. You can join our group coaching sessions, which we have somewhere between 15 and 20 different group coaching sessions every month. Some of them are guided by us, but then we bring in like Live Baltimore to provide Baltimore macroeconomic market. We bring lenders in, we bring realtors in, we bring other professional services around the real estate space, business consultants, architects. We bring all these different people together so that our participants, whether they're here locally or they're from California or Florida or anywhere else, they can learn exactly what needs to happen so that they can be as successful as they would like.
Well, that's cool. It seems like you guys' program is a little more comprehensive than ours. We basically it's like a ride along program for like 60 days where we just take you around our projects, show you everything. But it ends up being the same thing. You can get a property, show you how to get a property and get into the business. So I like the way your program sounds.
Thank you. I appreciate it. We've actually, I know we're live now, so I can say this, but we have a bus tour tomorrow where every quarter we invite folks to come into the city. We get a bunch of buses and we'll ride around to different developments, different properties, commercial, residential, so that folks can actually walk through. So tomorrow we'll be walking through a couple of different commercial properties, and also we'll be walking through a house that we haven't started, a house that's halfway finished. So it's framed, it's got the MEP finished, and then a final product so that folks can really see the full process. It makes a world of difference.
Yes, it does.
Wow. And so you're doing these bus tours, and you got the class going. And so with this particular project, is that something that the Charm City Buyer students are participating in, or is that just a separate project altogether that just you're working on?
So for the development
Yeah.
project,
Yeah.
yeah. So the development project is our project. It's
Okay, I
it's
got
us
you.
and our co-developer. Yep,
Yeah,
yep.
I
There
got
may be opportunities for our students to participate. We're exploring those now, and I think we're going to have an opportunity. But we have done things in the past where on a syndication perspective, which again, for those who don't know, it's when multiple equity partners come into a project with one lead person really managing the operations.
right.
We have done those individually for scattered site for sale houses where a few of our students will put up capital, will put in capital, will oversee it, manage it, and then everybody wins at the end.
But okay, when you sell it, yeah, okay, that's good, man. I like that concept. We've been thinking about that with some of the development we do as well. Really just thinking about how to structure it because it's even since I've just been only for the last 3 or 4 years working with Al. I mean, all my friends, oh man, I got $5,000, I got $10,000. They want you to, give them, they want to get in. I'm like, let me slow down. I want to just start taking money off the streets from
Yeah.
everybody. That could get you in trouble. But it is a great opportunity, to build community and to build wealth. I think about, this whole thing about development without displacement, because one of the things that Al is key in it, working with a lot of the rental assistant programs, and so trying to give people decent, affordable housing to live in around Baltimore City. I think is crucial because a lot of the housing stock has just been depleted over the last, say, 20, 30 years, and so you've seen that. And so when you look at that perspective, how does that line up with your overall philosophy? Because I know you're talking about owning the block, buying the block, and that's something you're teaching your students. And so when you think about some of the areas maybe you grew up in Baltimore or you drive through or once visited, how does that make you feel when you're thinking about, making a difference?
It's a tremendous feeling to be from a city that you were a young knucklehead once upon a time, and then you grow into a man, and you're able to positively impact the same areas. It means the world. For me, I grew up in the West Baltimore area, Gwen Oak. Had a lot of friends in the Park Heights area. I wasn't very good, but I used to play basketball out there and, just had some fun with it. So to be able to see some of the changes that are happening, tremendous.
Good. And so when you thinking about when you bringing in your students and we're doing, say single or scatter site housing, when you guys teach, are you teaching, are they looking mostly to just do flips? Or are any of those folks looking to do like turnkey rentals? Or are you teaching them wholesaling? Are you teaching them all facets of the business, or is there a specific track that most of your students or mentees look for?
We have a pretty comprehensive onboarding process,
Okay.
and our goal is to learn what their goals are.
Okay.
And then to be able to make sure that we're catering to them. Now, everybody's goals are relatively aligned within reason. But a lot of our students come in and they want to have turnkey rentals, or they want to buy, fix, and hold. Some of our students do come in and they want to buy, fix, and sell. That's their goal. We do have some people who come in and they want to wholesale, and we've done that too. We go through the wholesale process, and then by the end, when we're like, okay, it's time to find a buyer. Actually, this deal's pretty good. Let's do it ourselves, right? That's what always ends up happening for our wholesale property. So we coach that also, being able to make contact with sellers. Most of our projects we actually acquire from individuals. We don't do a lot of acquisition from Baltimore City owned properties.
Okay.
Now a lot of our clients do, but yeah, we coach the wholesale side also. We are coaching right now on raw land and being able to make transactions based on that. There's a very, very niche group of people that are interested in those spaces. But yeah, our goal is to continue learning and growing, continue doing as much as possible so that we can continue providing that knowledge.
So some of the people, what's your average range of students? Are some like, because I can imagine you probably have some people that are more experienced and then some people who are novice. So is like your typical median range of a student or mentor that comes to Charm City?
That's a great question. So we do have people who come in with a handful of properties. Either they've done it relatively locally or in another area. But as you guys know, Baltimore City is just a different animal. Um, uh, Typically, we have folks who are relatively new, and when I say new, they either have done 0 to 3 houses. They may not have actively done any rehab on them. They may have just had a turnkey house that they have. But most people are relatively new. Now we have a group of people who we've recently launched our VIP program because they're a little more experienced. They know the ropes and they're looking for that next level contact. And we're able to provide that to them.
No, that's cool. So what areas, I mean, are there specific areas you concentrate in, or is it the whole Baltimore City, or how do you help your students determine where to buy? Or you just look for good deals and you get your properties from wholesalers and just do the numbers and see if it's a good deal?
Yeah, so when it comes to this, there's multiple different aspects, right? So for our construction company, we're all over the city. We have clients everywhere. For our students looking to buy houses, we have, after being in the game for 10 years, we've got a number of wholesalers that send us deals daily, and we're able to share potential deals with them. We educate them on being able to fish for themselves, not fishing for them. So for us, it's like, look, analyze the deal using the tactics that we provide. But yeah, we're in East Baltimore, we're in West. We're looking a little bit everywhere. For us, our core operations where we're fixing and selling houses is in East.
Oh, mostly in East Baltimore. Okay. Is that any particular
Correct.
reason, or is it just because of logistics? Or is there any particular logistical reason you're concentrating in East Baltimore, or is it just make sense for your model of what you're trying to do in terms of marketing for your mentorship program?
Yeah, no. How did we end up in East Baltimore? So we started actually in West Baltimore with our rentals and then a few for sale houses. We moved over to East, and then we just kept on growing. It was organic. It wasn't like there was any type of specific intention around it.
Okay.
Do you connect your students with hard money lenders, or do you expect them to have a certain amount of assets and resources before they come in, or do you guys go find the financing for them?
Again, we teach people how to fish, and then we guide them through the process. We've worked with them for some of our clients. We've even personally guaranteed loans if we know that their balance sheet may not work, and it's a one-off case by case type of thing. But we have done it for clients before.
Yeah, we were talking about that whole thing. Sometimes you might have to guarantee using your influence or using your reputation to kind of help some people get jump started in the business. What would you, if somebody was just getting started, what kind of somebody, because oftentimes we get people who just hear about it. There's a lot of, people like myself and Al and yourself that are doing this, and, that are on social media, they're on YouTube or what have you, and people want to get in, but they don't know. So, I just think for you, what would you, tell someone, not necessarily if you were trying to recruit them for your program, but just like, hey, how would you advise someone if they were just getting into the business, or what advice would you give them?
Yeah, even if I didn't have a group coaching program, which it's not. I would still tell them, find a mentor, whether that's YouTube or a physical person who's done it before, or a friend or family member, colleague, work for somebody. Find some kind of guidance. It's the easiest way to do it, and then just don't be afraid. For us, when we were 22 and 23, we were young enough where we just weren't scared.
Didn't know to be scared.
And
too young to be scared. Yeah.
Yeah, and in the back of my mind, I'm like, well, I'm young enough where if we mess up in a major way, I got plenty of time to fix it.
Yeah,
right.
Right.
So, and for folks who may be a little wiser, find some guidance, get started. It's going to take capital, right? There's no kind of easy way. Even if you're wholesaling, which people look at as a low financial barrier entry point, you still need money to buy the letters. You still need money to get the wholesale list. You still need to drive around and find properties or spend time. So make sure your personal finances are in order before you start trying to manage business finances. Now there's a whole host of lessons and life stories that I could share.
Yeah, I mean that's true. I was thinking about we were talking about that. We had an earlier guest on. We were talking about getting started in the business, and that you didn't really need much money. And we were telling people that wholesaling thing. Although now, a tank of gas may be you might have to give one of your small children, your firstborn, to get a tank of gas. It's expensive, but just telling people kind of be self motivated and doing their research. I think that's critical. And then thinking about what group or what mentor or mentorship program works best for them, because I think everybody's model is different. I tend to like, Al's model because it's like more hands on. But listening to a lot of the materials and things that you guys have, it sounds interesting. I've been following you guys for a while anyway, just because I'm just interested. So I think sometimes that's important too, just kind of, even though you may be not with this group, you still follow this group because it's important to know about trends and anything. What would you think are like some of the trends that you think that's going on in real estate? And then we're going to take a break after probably you answer that question.
Sure. Some of the trends in real estate. So I'll start with the financial side, and I guess I'll move into some design trends that we're seeing. Interest rates are rising. No surprise there.
Yeah.
For us, we're looking at folks who have spent the last 2 or 3 years locking in these really low interest rate mortgages, refinancing or buying. They're not going to want to sell their house because they don't want to get into a larger interest rate. There are people who are going to sell, obviously, and move on. But by and large, most people are not going to want that. So we're looking at our construction company and saying, look, I know we're targeting developers now, but pretty soon homeowners are going to want to either build an extension or build up. They're not going to want to lose their low interest loans. So those are some trends that we're seeing projecting out well into the future, where homeowners are going to want to build up and out instead of buying new or rehab. Just some kind of macro economics there. From a design perspective, I'm not sure if you guys are seeing it. I'm sure you are, but these new cabinets have been coming in for a couple of months now, all these different colors, and even blending the colors, where your top cabinets are different colored from your island or your bottom cabinets, which is pretty cool to me. But from a design perspective, whatever's popular on the latest DIY or HGTV or whatever is really what's going to drive the market.
Yeah, absolutely.
Speaking of which, we were on some of those shows once upon a time. It was pretty fun.
Cool. Well, we get ready to take a break, Khalil, man, and so we appreciate you coming on, and we'll come back for the second half of the show. Thank you all for tuning in to Hand Radio, the real estate podcast with Meldon Dickens and host Al Davis. And our guest today, Khalil Uqdah from Charm City Buyers. Hey, so welcome back to the second half of this great show.
We're back.
I'm Meldon Dickens, your co-host, along with
Al Davis.
And we have our guest again here today, my brother Khalil Uqdah from Charm City Buyers. And so, Khalil, man, you've been doing this. How long you guys been out? About since 2012, about 10 years, right?
Correct. Yep, 10 years.
So, I mean, I'm gonna tell you, man, and Al can probably tell you some stories. He's got some stories. I even have some stories. I've only been at it for about 4 years, but man, come on, man, share some of us about some stories, man, some challenges you've had around, getting started in real estate. If it was whether it was a deal that went bad or a contract, a crazy situation with a deal or with a student.
Yeah, the first half of the show we talked all good stuff, all the good stuff with people, what I'm saying, the people want to hear, but let them. We want to this podcast. We want to let everybody know the good and the bad because it's challenges out there. I've been doing it 20 years. I done did over 200 houses, so dealing with the city. And I know you do business with them, so you might want to say negative. Dealing with the inspectors, dealing with my crew. You know what I mean? Dealing with your neighbors, dealing with stuff you see in the house that you didn't originally see, and you have to go back and do it. And all my contractors, and they not doing the work properly. You got to cuss them out. So let's talk about some stuff that's not so charming. And I don't know if you want to tell any stories like that, but I got millions of them. And I wake up at like 4:30 in the morning. I go to bed around 8 o'clock. But I deal with over 100 phone calls, and my biggest issue is stress in this business. So people got to know the good and bad, and you deep in it. So you let them know some of the ups and downs they're gonna have to deal with also.
Yeah, that's real. The reality is, if you're in this business and you don't have stories, you're not really in this business. Like, let's keep it a buck, right?
Yeah, sure.
That's just a fact. And Al, man, if you're dealing with 100 calls, it's time to hire, brother. You gotta get somebody to help you out, man.
Man, hire. I'm gonna retire. I ain't gonna retire. I'm gonna do something else, man, because I didn't pay my dues. So I just want to venture off into something else. Let you guys have all this. You know what I mean? Teach Meldon, put the people in places where I can keep my foot in the game, but not be 100% in the game. Because I gotta take a vacation, Khalil. I haven't got an R&R vacation since 15, man. So I have to do it.
Wow. Yeah. No, it's time to get you out there, bro. Yeah. So to your question, yeah. Let's start with the first deal. Like we bought that property wrong. Let's just start there.
Yeah. Go tell me about it.
We didn't know the difference. Yeah, we didn't know the difference between what's called a quit claim deed and a full warranty deed.
Whoa.
For those who don't know, we about to get into some realness right here. So a quit claim deed, for those who don't know, is mostly done through arm's length transactions.
Right.
So a transaction where you know the parties, right? You're either the owner of the business that you're selling it to, or you're somehow involved, right? It's an arm's length. You're within arm's length. And what happens in a quit claim deed transaction is you typically don't have any title insurance. All the liens and encumbrances are on you. So for our first deal, we had a tax bill that we had to pay. We had a water bill that we had to pay, and it was about $11,000 in additional costs that had we done a warranty deed, which, cost a little bit more than a quick claim deed, like $500 more, $700 more. We could have avoided those types of charges. We found ourselves like, let's shave a couple of dollars, skip a couple steps, but we didn't know any better.
Right. Yeah.
That's why I tell people all the time, you got to find somebody who can help you out, because you make those mistakes and you'll never make them again. That's for sure.
Yeah. Or you might be out the game. You make one mistake, you could be out the game now.
100% out the game. Yeah, if your budget's off and your scope is off, and I want to open up this wall because I think it's going to look good, and then all of a sudden you didn't realize you have knob and tube, right? And now you got to replace all the wiring in the whole house. You didn't budget for that.
Exactly. Tear them walls out.
Talk about an expense that you. Yeah, we bought a house one time, long time ago. We walk through it, we take a look at it, and everything looks good on the surface. It's a great deal. We're like, oh man, we can pay this house off in 3 years with the cash flow based on the rent comps and right? We get into the house, and our contractor calls in. He's like, hey, I'm in the kitchen plumbing system, the faucet, the trap, and everything. And he's like, I keep pulling on it, and I pulled the trap out.
Whoa.
There was no plumbing behind the wall.
Whoa, that's crazy,
bro. When I tell you, I got stories for days. I got stories for. I do this every single day. Our construction company has done over 350 houses. We recently partnered with our GC and formed a more strategic partnership. But we've got deals all over the city that we're currently building at any given time.
Do you make all your properties lead free?
We make them lead safe.
Yes, sir.
We make them lead safe. So when we do our full gut rehabs, yes, lead free, 100%. Going into the future, yes, I've made it a very strong strategic decision that we will not do lead safe. We're going to make sure we do lead. We're going to do full gut rehabs for any properties that we buy and hold, as well as properties that we sell. And we've been doing that for man, at least 5 or 6 years now. It's been a long time since we've done a lead safe.
Yeah, because one lead lawsuit loss and you're done. Your history.
Yeah.
Yep, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. And there's all kind of disclosures. And anytime you get a new tenant in, you got to do a new lead inspection, and it's too much of a hassle. It's a full-time job by itself.
Oh yeah, no
So
question.
so
And I argue. I think we have 38 guys now. I have 3 crews. We had 3 crews working. About how many people you think we had? About 38.
Maybe a little more now because
Yeah.
you actually got 4 crews.
Yeah, we got 4 crews now. So I'm always going back and forth with them. Like, you talk to about the importance of knowing what you're doing. Like, over 20 years, I've just learned just by being in the house and working. I know the electric, the arc faults. I know all electrical. I know the plumbing, what needs to be done with the plumbing. I know what needs to be done with the HVAC. I know how to run the gas line. I know how to install flooring cabinets and everything. So that when I go in my houses, I can look at the house and be like, why didn't you guys do that? Or why you didn't do it this way? Or why you leave this off? And I know what I'm looking at. But if you don't have that experience, or if you don't affiliate with someone who has that experience, and you overlook that, it could cost you in the long run. Do you agree?
absolutely. Yeah, no question about it. Do you guys dig down in your basements and make extra living space?
Yes. If we have to, if the basement isn't 7 feet, we try to make all our basements 7 feet minimum.
Yep.
So it's
Yep.
just so much.
So you got to
get.
waterproof and
Yeah.
Shot pump, all of that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, the French drain.
Yep.
We'll do that just so you don't want to sell a house and the first year they're in the house, they got a flooded basement. So we just try to put a French drain system in there just to make sure that our name stays good, because that's very important to us. That's the only reason we've been able to stay in business. Yeah. That's actually the most important reason we've been in business for over 20 years, because no one can really talk negative about us because we try to do good business with everyone. Speak to the importance
exactly
of that.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's important, man. Because you talked about networking earlier, and just in the business, been working with Al and so many people that know him, that he knows, and you know how we say sports, Baltimore is, and we've met some people, some folks that were working with you with Charm City that are doing some stuff with us at Coppin Heights, and Dr. Rob. So it's just like, it's important that you keep a good reputation, a good name in business. Not that you have to do business with everyone, but I think it's important that you keep a good name and reputation. What I wanted to also ask is, when you're thinking about this real estate in terms of what kind of challenges have you had? And I guess maybe now maybe different, like even working with the city and inspectors, because now they kind of changing some things. They got these vacant property notices that they put on all the buildings with the QR codes. And so, it's funny because, I went to check on a couple projects. We were working about 6 houses, and I remember calling. I was like, "What the heck is this, man? I got 6 these signs on our houses, right?" And we didn't know what they were, and they just slapped them on the door of our building, and then you scan the QR code and you saw what it's all. So, what kind of challenges have you had, man? Not that we trying to bash the city, but we're really just trying to educate the public on that. There's some things you need to know. So, what some of your experiences been with that?
So, if you don't mind, I'm gonna start by talking about my involvement with the city, and then I can talk about some of the opportunities for growth. Is that cool?
Oh, absolutely.
All right, dope. So we've been involved in several different committees working with the city because of the work that we do and the reputation that we have. So we were on the Mayor's Transition Committee for Housing and Community Development. We were on the CHAP board to help provide guidance on how the CHAP program should expand, should grow, should specifically target areas that are disinvested, and a number of other committees, subcommittees, work groups. Throughout time, we've advocated for different bills and legislations. We've got testimonies on our experiences. So the goal that we always keep in mind is that our goal is to continue pushing the conversation forward, to keep building, keep growing, and making the system just a little bit more efficient, a little bit better, to ensure that as we leave a legacy, we're leaving one upon which folks can actually build upon. with that in mind, I was actually on a subgroup that was working on those QR codes, which is pretty cool to actually see them put in place and all those types of things.
See the mad scientists behind
there's still
that.
some air. Go ahead.
And I was just messing. I said, "You the mad scientist behind that." Now, just go ahead. I'm just laughing.
I wouldn't say I'm the mad scientist, but I got a seat at the table.
Yeah,
I got a seat at the
I got
table.
you. So go ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry to cut you off.
So yeah, there's some efficiencies where things could be a little more streamlined, and what we find is that different departments are relatively siloed.
Yeah.
So when we're going after variance changes, when we're going through the permitting process, sometimes things will lag and sit on somebody's desk or in somebody's email, and it may take a little longer, and you got to keep following up, either phone call or keep messaging through that one-stop service. It's nothing's perfect. I will say that the online technology that the state of Maryland and the city uses is extremely helpful when it comes to doing even small things like your personal property taxes, or registering a business, or checking in and seeing what property is owned by whom, leveraging SDAT. There's a bunch of different systems out there, even like the land records. They obviously are a little bit behind, very behind. I've got a property that I purchased almost 2 years ago at this point, and it still isn't recorded.
Yeah.
But that's another story. The land record site is good. The City View site is new and good. Code Map, I like Code Map and how it's functional and how you can get to all these different websites through using one system. All in all, could things be better? No question about it. Could we have fewer vacant properties if there were better systems in place? Yeah, absolutely. I think with the commitments that have been made within the last 12 months, putting like real dollars behind eliminating vacant properties and looking to create systems and processes and institutional departments that are dedicated to this, things will continue to improve. But it's got to be a multi administration approach. So it can't die when the current administration moves on.
Right.
It's got to be something that goes beyond time, and it's got to be something that's institutionalized and written and funded consistently, so that we can get rid of a lot of these vacant houses. One of the big problems right now is that Baltimore City population is just low. It's low, historically low, right? So I'm sure you guys know we used to be a 1 million person city.
Yeah.
We're down to like 580,000, 600,000.
Yeah, about six, maybe six and some change. Yeah. And see, that's and it's interesting you brought that up. That's a critical difference, I think, because DC is only about 600,000 as well, but the difference in the district is that it grows to about 1.2 million during the day because all the government people that work inside the district.
Exactly. They get different. It's different.
So
they got a different.
They get the revenue from folks coming in, parking, restaurants. So it helps kind of build it back up in a sense because they get those dollars because all the government infrastructure that's there. But I also think too, man, the last 2 years has been real challenging with COVID because we haven't been able to go to the office. I know like Al and I have been sometimes struggling when you're trying to get your permits done. And because, obviously, offices were closed and everything was done online, you couldn't get folks on the phone, back in the day, because some folks, you've been doing it, you can go downtown and say, hey,
right.
Can you help me out? And that's been a real challenge over the last couple of years. And I feel like some of that has just been exacerbated by, COVID. And then, obviously sometimes, the wheels don't move as smooth as they should in our government agencies. But all in all, we've been doing pretty good work, we think, with the city, and we hope that we can continue that. But it's definitely a challenge, man, because that's something I think, and you guys probably know this better than I do. There was a time you probably didn't do a whole bunch of permitting. I know a lot of folks were just going in, rehabbing a house and getting it done. And they might get inspection at the end, housing inspection at the end, and then they put that thing on the market. So you wasn't necessarily getting it inspected every step of the way, pulling permits. But now, I think it's a good system, the way it is, and it makes sense to do your due diligence when you're doing your construction.
Yeah, since Khalil has a seat at the table, maybe we can he gives a seat next to us so we can get in with the mayor's office, and maybe we could get some strategies that can get rid of some of these board ups, because that's my intention. Take some of these board ups off, put them back on the tax rolls, and make the city look a little better.
Yeah, man, that would be awesome, because I think that's
exactly right.
Yeah, the city just doesn't have tax base. That's what's going on with the infrastructure.
Yeah, the city spends $80 million a year on vacant properties.
That's crazy.
That money could go to a lot of other different things. And that's just maintaining vacant properties that are not producing revenue for the city, properties that are not contributing to the community, properties that are actually taking away by providing negative energy and violence and opportunities for infestation of rodents and all, right? Like there are ways to eliminate vacants in a concentrated geographic way. And I think there are a lot of well-intended people who are having those conversations. But look, at the end of the day, we're talking 16,000 plus vacant properties. Some estimates go up to 40. That's not something that's going to change overnight. Right. They say anyway, it's a lot.
I think 40 is closer to accurate too, because the ones that we can clearly see, but you know this and I know this, they're ones that don't look vacant, but they are. Right. They just don't. They may not have been as neglected for as long, but folks have vacated those properties. They just may not be boarded up. They may not have roofs falling in, but they're definitely vacant. So yeah, I would say 40 is closer to the accurate number.
And they're gonna go ahead.
No, please. I'm gonna gear the topic somewhere else, but let's finish this first.
No, I'm saying they become so dilapidated so quickly, and I'm a real simple guy. I know plenty of people. I love Miss Teresa, knows down with the vacancy to value, but I just want to go into the city and say, listen, give them an address, show them I have the money, show them I had the experience, and show them the property I've done. They'll be like, just give me the property. I wish it was that simple, but unfortunately it's not.
Yeah. We got some work to do, I think, but I think we got some good people at the table, and we're moving.
Yeah. What did our soul sister Lauren Hill say? It could all be so simple.
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll be able to work with Charm. Hopefully we'll be able to work with Charm City in the future, and we can reach some of these goals. Khalil, I certainly look forward to working with you in the future, man.
Definitely, man.
Let's make it happen.
I believe in your other thing. You talked about development without displacement. And I think that's critical to creating affordable housing. We don't necessarily want to gentrify neighborhoods. I mean, I know I've been looking at some rehabs in D.C. It's just actually, and I had a lot of family there. I got a great aunt. In fact, she turns 98 today.
Happy birthday.
And she lived in the Shaw neighborhood.
Hand clap for that.
Yeah, my aunt Juanita. And she lived in the Shaw neighborhood, man. And those houses now are worth probably $1 million.
For sure.
And right near Howard University. And so, it's just an opportunity. So real quick, we get ready to wrap up. Khalil, is there anything you want to say, man? Share about your program. What's going on? Give a shout out to Charm City Buyers. We give you this opportunity, man. We again thank you for coming on to the Real Estate Podcast. We appreciate you, man. We look forward to doing something with you real soon. But anything you want to share about, you guys got anything coming up? I know you got the tour tomorrow. Real quick.
Yeah. So we have a quarterly tour, bus tour, where we drive around and look at commercial developments. We'll look at residential developments. I think the one thing that I really would like to leave folks with is that the historical perspective of why the vacants are the way they are. So you got to know your history, and you got to understand what happened. And it was a cyclical, very intentional thing, and it's redlining, right, where there were literally lines drawn on a map where lenders would not lend, insurance companies would not provide insurance policies, right? It was this systematic thing. And when you depress the economy, you lower the taxes that go into the local schools. So now all of a sudden the schools are underfunded, the infrastructure starts to crumble, and it's this cyclical thing, decades long, over and over again. So it's not just vacant because somebody woke up and was like, I'm leaving, but now's the time for Al, myself, Meldon. We're going to right this wrong and turn the ship around and get things popping.
Yes,
we're going to
sir.
get all these
Indeed.
vacants taken care of as a unit, and
Yes.
we're going to build Baltimore back to its glory, baby.
Yes,
I
sir.
feel you got me motivated, man.
That's what's up. That's what's up. Listen, man, happy Father's Day to all the brothers out there. King
Yes.
Richard, happy Father's Day, Khalil. Happy Father's Day, Al.
Thanks, man.
And we look forward to
Thank you.
Connecting with you guys again. Thank you for all of our listeners again for tuning in to Hand Radio, the Real
Forget
Estate
about
Podcast.
YouTube. Go like and subscribe on the YouTube.
Yeah, go ahead.
The Real Estate Podcast. Go ahead, man.
The Real Estate Podcast people on YouTube, Google, and Spotify podcasts. Also on all social media networks, the Real Estate Podcast on Facebook, the Estate _podcast on Instagram, LinkedIn. And please join us and follow us and like us. We're putting a lot of information out there about, and also the mentorship program. Please tune in. You can go to skymilesllc.com to get any information about our mentorship program. We continuously have wholesale deals. If anybody's interested in getting into the investment real estate, and we also could do any of your rehabs and construction. So we look forward to working with you, sharing with you, giving you any kind of knowledge. Once again, thank you to our brother Khalil.
Thanks, Khalil.
Uqdah from Charm City.
And don't forget skymilesllc.com. If anybody has questions about the mentorship program, just go to skymilesllc.com and we'll get right back with you with any questions about the mentorship program.
Thank you, sir.
Good day.
Thank you.